Hello, everyone, and welcome back to class. This is our last lecture on Chapter 4. Let's pick up where we left off last class with depth perception. I hear someone has their microphone on. Can everyone please turn their microphones off? Hearing some background noise. Okay, I'll mute that. Okay, back to the lecture. So depth perception is obviously our ability to discern how far away something is, some stimulus is. And we have an ability to see depth with just one eye open. We call those monocular cues. You only need one eye to see them. And then there are also binocular cues that are about information that comes to your brain from both of your eyes, which see slightly different things. So the monocular depth clues include relative size. Something that is bigger is closer, or something that is closer is bigger than something that is further away. Texture gradient means that we can see finer details on things that are up close, whereas something that's further away looks more blurry. Things that are further away also get bluer. That's not mentioned there. Also another cue. Interposition means that something that is in front of something else will obscure it, obviously. Linear perspective, there's an interesting phenomenon where parallel lines appear to converge in the distance. It looks like they would meet together at one point, and we call that the vanishing point. But reality, that's not true, right? They're parallel forever, but it looks to us as if they're going to come in and meet. Height and plane means that things that are further away are higher up in the frame of the picture. So in this picture back there, it looks like there's some trees, and these are positioned higher than things in the foreground, like these rocks. And then just like we can also use light and shadow to determine distance, because shadows fall on things. And so you can get a sense of position from that as well. Binocular cues require both eyes, and you'll notice that the predators have two forward-facing eyes. And what that allows the brain to do is to use the slightly different images that comes from each eye. Take your finger, look at it with one eye, shut your eye, look at it with another eye, and it looks like your finger is jumping back and forth. Your brain uses that information, that disparity information, to calculate the distance of objects. And it's interesting that we just have one image based on these two eyes, but that's not like it is for mice. Mice have two images, and their eyes can look in different directions. And then convergence refers to the fact that when you look at something closer, it brings your eyes inwards. And so your brain uses information from the muscles that are telling it how far they're turning in. And that also gives you a sense of distance of objects. Depth perception isn't something that we are born with immediately. It's something that develops. It develops pretty quickly. And this has been tested with something called a visual cliff experiment. And in this experiment, baby is on some kind of a counter, and then there's a piece of plexiglass that would be safe for the baby to crawl over. And mom's on the other side saying, come on. And is the baby going to crawl over that? Well, not if they have depth perception. They're thinking, I'm going to fall down that cliff. And the baby will hesitate at about like 6 months old, but before that, they'll go over it, suggesting that they don't have that visual cognitive ability. We are subject to many illusions, right? We misperceive things. We've looked at some fun ones in class last day. And those illusions teach us something about the way the brain works. We don't understand all of them, so we don't really understand the moon illusion. There are different theories about why the moon looks big sometimes. So the moon appears large to us when it's closer to the horizon, but when the moon's high up in the sky, it looks really small. But it's the same size, right? The moon doesn't get bigger. And we don't really know why that happens. But when we do figure it out, it'll teach us something about the way our mind works. Here are some famous illusions in psychology. The first one is called the Mueller-Lyer illusion. So let's take a look at these two lines here. One of them is flanked by what we call closed fins, and another one is flanked by open fins. These lines are of the same length, but the one that's flanked by the closed fins appears shorter for some reason. And I don't really know why. I wonder why they're showing you this picture here. Like, what does this mean? What's this doing in the textbook? I was trying to figure that out. And I see here like this here, let me turn on my laser pointer. This is like a line with closed fins. Oh, and then you know what? There's these ceiling tiles and floor tiles, and I suppose that makes a line with open fins. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be getting out of that image. And I don't know if if it made sense to any of you. See a comment there? It's demonstrating perspective and line difference. Can you explain more? What am I missing? I don't understand why they're showing us this picture. Oh, because it's about how far away something is. These lines are closer, and this one is further away. I think I get it. Am I understanding now? Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate the help. Next one is the Ponzo illusion. That's a visual illusion in which the upper of two parallel horizontal lines of equal length appears to be longer than the bottom of the two lines when they're flanked by oblique lines that are closer together at the top than they are at the bottom. Okay, so these are the oblique lines. They're closer at the top than at the bottom. That makes this triangle. And most people will see this circle as bigger than that one, even though they're the same. And the reason that happens is because of the way that lines seem to converge in the difference. So now imagine that these are railroad tracks. Well, the circle at the back over here would be bigger if it appeared to be the same size as this one because it's further back in the distance. And the same thing happens here with these lines. So these lines are of exactly the same length, but this one looks longer. So it's messing with your sense of perspective and distance. The vertical horizontal illusion is the tendency for people to overestimate the length of a vertical line relative to a horizontal line that is actually the same length. There was an example of this in the first chapter of your textbook with a top hat, where people thought that the height of the top hat was higher than the width of the brim when they were actually the same length. Last one is the Ebbinghaus-Titchener illusions. Apparently, this one does not work on me. These circles look the same size to me, but I hear that this one looks bigger to people because it is surrounded by smaller things. And apparently this one looks smaller because it is surrounded by big things. And so the illusion, if it works on you, is that a stimulus surrounded by smaller stimuli appears larger, and a stimulus surrounded by larger stimuli looks smaller. So it is said. And I see a comment in the chat. Whenever I look at a perfect square, one side always looks a little too long. I found out recently that printing companies and graphic designers have to take that into account because their eyes aren't necessarily going to present things correctly. So when you see good graphic design, it often isn't going to be exact because it's relying on our eyes messing up. That's fascinating. I read somewhere, and it might even have been in your textbook, I can't recall, that advertisements usually have the textbook on the text on one side and the picture on the other because of the way we look at things. Apparently that's more effective. Now, we've been discussing stimuli that you notice. And our threshold for saying that we notice something, the absolute threshold, is that you notice it more than half the times it's presented if it were presented many times, right? That's the absolute threshold. Now, what about stimuli that fall below that threshold, right? What if there's a tone that I could play and you're straining to hear it and you only hear it 40% of the times that I present it, or 30% of the times that I present it? You still hear it sometimes, but it's hard to hear and easy to miss. We call that subliminal. Luminous in Latin means threshold, and so it's below the threshold. It's a subliminal stimulus. And then if it was something that you could hear more than 50% of the time that I present it, we call that supraliminal. Okay. There is a lot of information that comes into us all the time that we're not aware of. Our conscious awareness is like a spotlight that focuses in on just a tiny fraction of all the stimuli that we're being bombarded with. And you might wonder, when we have this midbrain, this limbic system that directs these primal responses that don't even really need our conscious awareness, they're instincts. Well, how are all these stimuli affecting our behavior? And do we know how they're affecting our behavior? And how much deliberate control do we have over that? We process a lot of sensory input unconsciously, right? And a lot of our actions happen with little or no forethought or deliberation, right? They're automatic practiced responses, or they somehow are rooted in some sense of instinct or impulse. So if we can detect stimuli without knowing it, does that affect our behavior? So subliminal perception refers to the processing of sensory information that occurs below the level of conscious awareness. And now I'm going to show you guys a video. And let's see if you notice anything about it. Anyone notice anything about that? Less than half of you should have. There was a subliminal message in that ad. No, it's not a tapping sound. Music tone in the background. If you can hear the music, it's not subliminal, it's supraliminal. Another question, was it just me or was there a McDonald's sign in the background at one point? I didn't notice. I'll play it one more time. No, I don't want, no. Oh, it's taking me to something else. sorry. I have to, this is the replay button. There we go. Let's do it one more time. You know what? This time I'm going to tell you, and then maybe you'll notice it. The word, yes, Cameron has got it. It's the word rats. So they have text and they bring the text in. It looks like it's like flying over your head. And they position it in such a way that it focuses on the word rats. Because the bureaucrats, the Democrats are rats. So let's play that again. I'll turn on my laser pointer and I'll try to help you notice it this time. So when the word bureaucrats come, it's going to focus on rats for just like maybe even less than a second. So what? Look for rats. They lingered on the rat part of bureaucrat for a bit. And there's a part where when they're bringing in the word, you only see rat. So would that change your vote? I mean, I would feel like a little manipulated by this. I think I would, maybe not vote for them after they tried to mess with me with subliminal stimuli. But can it work? Okay, yeah, sorry, there's your rats. So that's what it looks like. Well, yeah, subliminal stimuli do have effects, right? They affect our appraisals. So in one study, they showed people subliminal angry faces. And then they asked them to appraise some kind of event. Like, here's a little story about an event. And they, when they saw the angry faces, they were more likely to appraise the negative event as caused by other people. And when they saw subliminal sad faces, they're more likely to appraise the exact same events as caused by situational factors. And you make an appraisal of a situation. Maybe you make a judgment, you make a decision based on that. You blame somebody, maybe they react to that. You can see how, one thing leads to another. So yes, subliminal stimuli do have effects. The effect of a single subliminal stimulus would be brief. It would be short term, so it would have a small impact on behavior and attitudes. But if you make a decision on the basis of an attitude, then you could see how one thing could lead to another. That effect disappears when people are aware of or suspect that. You might not be very impressed if you're a voter and you knew they were that party was putting subliminal messages in your TV ads. You might question how much effect they would have on like long-term attitudes and values, or can a single subliminal stimuli have a large-scale effect? Probably not. But we're talking about like one stimulus. What if you were being bombarded with this all the time from all directions? And I feel like that's the kind of study that the KGB would do. And there's a comment from Shirley. There's a great 2000s comedy film where subliminal messaging is one of the main points of the plot. It's hilarious. They use ad placements throughout the whole film, and you don't necessarily notice it on your first playthrough. It's called Josie and the Pussycats, and it's set in the Arch universe. It's camp and highly underrated. Well, I look forward to watching it. Thank you for the recommendation. Here is an ad, a brand that you are familiar with, and there's a subliminal stimulus in there. Can you find it? It's communicating that FedEx is sort of fast and direct. Yeah. Yes, there is an arrow in there. See, it's right here. It's kind of cute, isn't it? I don't object to that kind of clever subliminal messaging. Here's another one. It's suggesting to you that Tostitos would be a good thing to share with your friends. Yes. So there's two people here having a good time sharing chip and dip together. Yeah. Again, I think this is clever. I mean, I like this. I think it's a good job. Right? They're getting you to associate something with the brand, which is the way they're trying to present themselves, and it's artistic. It's cute. I'm not upset by this. I'd be a little bit put off by the political ad messaging. Here's another one. It's a gin ad. And sometimes advertisers will use the promise of sex to sell things. It's right in front of you. No one? Looks like a snowman. What looks like a snowman? Oh, here? This is where you should be looking for the sex. Yeah, the ice in the second glass is the ice in the glass is the right place to look. And apparent you should be able to, when you see it, you'll see it. So it actually, you're looking in the right place. So you know it's there, but you're not consciously aware of it. So it's interesting that you know exactly where it is, but it's not kind of getting to your conscious awareness. You're looking right at it. But you're seeing a snowman and not the words SEX. It's spelled right out. Yes, there's a word hidden in the ice. Good job, guys. All right, next one. This is a cigarette ad, and the advertisers are suggesting enhanced sexual performance, male sexual performance, if you smoke cigarettes. I wouldn't buy that line at all. Cigarette smoking, in fact, is associated with erectile dysfunction. But you can see where they're going with this. If you got crushed in the clinch with your soft pack, try out our hard pack. You know where they're going with this. Benson and Hedges cigarettes. So the one cigarette sticking out, well, I think that's a little bit suggestive, but it's not subliminal because you can see that so obviously. When you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a question there, is it about the lights behind? I'm going to say no, but I will agree that, again, they're going with this suggestive theme of things that look phallic, but it's supraliminal because I can see that. But it's so easy to miss the other thing he seems to be holding. So there's an image of a penis over here in his hand. You can see the head over there, and this is the shaft. So once you can see that, you can't unsee it. You see that now? Yeah, it's drawn into her back. Now you see it. All right. So there's some effect of subliminal stimuli, but it's limited, especially if it's coming from, one source, one stimulus, one source. I don't know about any KGB level research where, you get it from all corners in a coordinated, systematic way. That might be very powerful. But sometimes people will buy these like subliminal self-help tapes so that, while you sleep, you're apparently listening to some kind of messages that will help you be more confident or less anxious or something like that. And there's no evidence that those work. Back in the 80s, there was a bit of like a satanic panic, and people were afraid that there were subliminal messages in rock music that would corrupt the youth, and that doesn't hold any water either. All right, that brings me to the end of this lecture. We got through a lot of material last class, so we're ending early today. Are any questions? Chapter 3 and 4 will be on your next midterm, so we've now covered the content for your next midterm. I see a question. Didn't people used to listen to tapes like with language lessons in their sleep so they could study in their dreams? Yes, people have tried things like that, and if that kind of thing isn't well researched because it just sells, right? It costs money to fund studies, and if something sells, then you're not going to do a study on it. If people sometimes sell these little like amulets, and an amulet to help with your anxiety or depression. Well, people buy those anyway. I believe that the research that is out there suggests that they're ineffective. The date of the next midterm it's in March, and you'll find that in the syllabus. All right, I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll hang around if there are any other questions. Thank you for your attention.